G'day guys, welcome back. And today I have an unboxing of, well, a form of industrial wet and tile brick saw. It's the brand is a Brayer, but for you Americans, I would assume it's a rebranded Harbor Freight saw from the looks of it. I'm not going to be using it for everyday trade use. I just bought it for these brick walls because that other one I need to cut a lot of bricks, and I've also got some paving to do where I'm going to need to cut a lot of bricks for paving. So it should do for what I need. But I'm going to unbox it today. We're going to have a take a look at it. Okay, so there's basically the frame of it. That looks like the overhang for the motor. So there will be a bit of assembly, some more hardware in there. Alright, I'll just continue to empty this out. I'll get it out of the box and then I'll bring it back. Okay, so we've got all our pieces out of the box. I will say one thing, a lot of foam. Yeah, a lot of foam. But, yep, nothing looked broken. Apart from a couple of little spacer foam pieces, but everything looks intact and was packaged well. Just, yeah, a lot of that foam stuff to get rid of afterwards. But main thing is everything's intact and looks like everything's here. Yeah, it got some wheels, which was like they're lockable. Some hardware, which seems to have the right amount of nuts and right amount of bolts of each. Actual saw unit's pretty much all one piece and bolts on. Got your sliding table there, your miter gauge, handle, couple of pieces to the stand, and your main table and your water tray. And the pump is pretty wide and connected. There's your submersible pump, looks like, on and off switch on the power cable, which I'm not real happy about that. But sorry, it looks like a reset switch, on and off switch down there. Okay. Right, so I'm looking at this already, and I'm looking at the instructions, and there's nothing to say how the wheels go on already. And what instructions I have seen, they're not very, very small, and your typical Chinese type assembly instructions that are very vague. So I'm going to have a fiddle around, which obviously looks like you assemble the stand first, which it doesn't have any sort of instruction on that part of it, but looks like 2 bolts at the crossover point of the stand and whatever bolts that are needed for the wheels. They're sort of pre-assembled there by the look of them, but I'm not sure what that bit there is for. But yeah, I'll get one on and we'll have a look. That makes sense. So we'll put that in there. And that doesn't turn, but it goes on like that, I'm assuming. Tighten up there, but then unless that's to jack it up so that it's not on the wheels, raise and lower it so it lifts off the wheels. That's quite possible. Give it another Okay, so on. Well, that's great. The off is actually the on for the brakes. Off. On wheels. Alright, so that goes like that, looks like. Yeah, I don't know, we'll see what happens with that. Okay. Off is actually on. Okay, it's working. So lock these so they don't roll anywhere. That sort of fashion. So all of that. Stand just that way, but okay, so which got something taped to it there for removal. Yes, but yeah, it looks, this is all cast aluminium. Got some fairly robust, looks like plastic bearing nylon rollers, so it should roll fairly smoothly on there. And we've got some bearings on the side here. I'll just take that bit of tape off. Okay, so I've turned the unit around now and we're trying to fit this sliding table, and it has a locking feature here, in and out. Okay, and that pin aligns with that hole under there to lock the table so it doesn't move during transport. Now to get that on, this little plastic channel needs to be in this orientation to allow it to slide through, and then once in there we lift it up and rotate it so that when you bring the table back it hits this and it won't go any further and it can't come out and fall off on you. Okay, so we need to, and if I look at, there's some instructions here. It tells you unlocked, locked. So we turn it to the unlocked section, and our wheels are going to ride on these round bars, and I think these other bearings go underneath here to stop it tilting up. Wheels line up underneath and on top, and we slide in. Once we're in, lift up, turn it, so now when it comes back there's a stopper underneath that will hit it and stop. And that's a Very nice, smooth action. Large particle tray. We'll slide in. Now, and we can lock our table. That's it. It's not a positive lock, but I think it's only for transportation anyway. Alright, now we will go ahead and bolt the sword on. Looks like it bolts to this part of the table, and go in that orientation. Show you what I'm doing here. So we're installing these 4 bolts which go in and then thread into that part. Just be aware that they do have these metal sleeves which can fall out, so make sure they're all in. And I put those 2 bolts in to try and keep it all sort of lined up to make it a bit easier. And this was all lined up pretty easily. It's just a matter of balancing it to get the threads to start, because you know the overhang weight is trying to tip it over. The same. A quick squeeze while we're done that. So put these 2 bolts in here and these 4 there, and they're done up quite snugly. I don't think you need to hang off them, because there is those little cylinders are inside there to stop the squashing, which is why you've got this plate here on each side, which is good so you don't squash this box tube. No, it seems pretty solid, and like it's on a stand, so it's going to wobble, but like it doesn't feel like it's going to tip over, if you know what I mean. And my paver's on a bit of an angle, so looks like this is our lock here. Pull that out and loosen off this knob, and now you have free range of the saw. It doesn't go up and down a lot, but remember it is on an angle. But it is fairly smooth, same as the table once we unlock it. So my impressions so far are not bad ones, apart from the lack of instruction for the wheels. I'm pretty happy so far. And we've got buttons here and stuff. I don't know what that's for, we'll find out. Oh, that's for it's laser. It's got a laser line. I don't know what that's for, whether it's a gimmick or not. Find out about that. Probably runs off the power, so we'll see what happens with that. We've got to fit the mitre gauge and this these have got the bolts in here, and they'll go in there for that, so I'll do that now. Bolts. It is only just a handle. It is quite heavy actually, isn't it? Back in, and that just sort of sits in there. It simply just slots over the top of there, and it has a little bit of sheet metal that's on a right angle and when you tighten the knob it bends it out to fix it tight. And there. And you have a scale here as well, which is quite handy, I would think. So you can. It's not the slightest, yeah, but you basically put it where you want it. Line it up, I think, with this part of the fence. And then lock it up and it won't move. And same with the lighter gauge, you've got your increments, what's that, 15, 5, 10, 15 degrees, 20, it's got like an indent for 22.5 degrees, and 30 degrees, which that'll be 25, 30, 35, 40, and another indent for 45 degrees. And your brick will sit there, so it cuts on the angle like that. So that's all there, and that's quickly and easily removable. Just undo that and lift up if you just want to make straight cuts or bevel cuts. Alright, so that's easily done. Now, it did come with a blade. It doesn't look like a lot to me. I'm going to give it a go. I do have another blade that I bought a long time ago when I laid these pavers, and I fitted it to my drop saw, which was a super cheap auto drop saw. I don't even think they sell them anymore. And it was pretty pricey back then. I'll give this one a go. Because it's a wet saw, I don't know, like, because usually nowadays they have like expansion joint slits in them, so when they get hot it's got somewhere to go, because when they heat up they tend to buckle because the heat. But I'll give it a go and see how it cuts. If it's terrible, I will try my old blade, because that's done a bit of work. I'm not sure if there's much diamond left on it, but I'll give it a crack on there, because it looks like a 250mm blade. It should fit. But if it doesn't, if I'm still not happy with it, I'm going to have to buy a better blade, because I do want to do a decent job. Alright, so I'll put you back on and I'll work out how to fit this blade so I can give that a go. So I need to remove this cover. That looks, it's captive as well, so you can't lose the bolt. That's great. And a little water sprays in there. Okay, there goes on. Get it. Flange, push it. Push. That's locked in. And you don't need to do these up too tightly either, because they try and tighten as it runs anyway. You want to do it reasonably tight, but not that tight that you have to really strain yourself to get it up. Right, check that it spins freely, and it does. Okay, so for all purposes, we're together. Some nice rubber to stop the water. I dare say I am still going to get splatter out here. Just check how far this table comes out. Yeah, so you get a fair bit of stick out. So you are going to get some splash out there. I'll probably be doing this on the grass, but I'm going to have to find a way to stop it. Yeah, really shooting out somewhere. See how it goes. Alright, so just having a quick check of the instructions. I'll grab a square because I'm going to need to check the blade alignment and that sort of thing. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so I've got it filled up with water, and I don't know if you can see it, probably not, but way back there, see, you can see it, there's a line there and that says max, and under the water line it's got a minimum button line. So I've we filled it up a little above the minimum line. Now in the instructions it says to run the pump and check the flow and adjust the flow, but I can't find any flow adjustment. There's nothing on the pump. There's nothing along the line. This is actually just a depth stop. Yeah, there's nothing on it to show any flow adjustment, so I'm assuming it is just got one set sort of flow. Anyway, we'll turn it on. I've got it plugged in. So it definitely got water coming out, and but I don't know how long your water's going to last. I suppose when you're cutting it'll just run off, but yeah, if you just keep it running it's going to end up more outside than inside, but you can always keep topping it up. That's why it's probably got a maximum, so you can fill it right up and then it'll drain down. Yeah, I might take this blade off and try and run it again just to see how much flow is coming out of those, because there's a little outlet on one side and another one on the inside. I've figured out that while I'm here that this is the laser adjuster. So there's I don't know if the camera's not really, oh there it is, and it doesn't really pick it up as well as you can see it. Yeah, there it is. I can see it a lot easier with my eyes than with the camera. Maybe put the camera, no, there it is anyway. And there's also an LED light, which sort of can't really notice it, but I don't know why you need the LED, but has one of those as well. I'm not sure about the angles yet. That's something I'd prefer to do. Well, I will check it. I'm not going to do it right now because I sort of like to do a cut with a brick and then check the angle on the actual brick itself, but sort of not ready to do that just yet. I'll just go over my impressions so far. Everything seems to work. It's a little cumbersome trying to wheel it around, but I don't suppose I'm going to be wheeling it around with water because it's probably just going to go everywhere. So that's something to remember, is wheel it where you want it, then fill it with water. It only took about this is a 9 litre bucket, so it took maybe a bucket and a half to get to that point. Probably maybe not quite 2 buckets and you'll be at the max line, I would say. So around 20 litres at the most, or just under. Let's see, it's pretty solidly built, and everything's working so far as it should. Like I said, I haven't done a test cut, so I'm not sure on the out of the box how good it is. We've also got bevel cut here, which not really what I bought it for, but not from the specs. At a 90-degree cut, this will cut a 90mm depth brick, and my bricks are only 75mm, so this should go straight through what I need. I'll get full depth cut, no problem. But the depth does vary as you tilt it to how deep you can go. But like I said, not really an issue for me, bevel cuts. But if you're doing tiles and that sort of thing, you might need bevel cuts. I like the scaling. That would definitely come in handy for doing tiles. The padding on there, I don't know how long it's going to last. It's a rubber. It doesn't look like you can replace it, though I haven't checked underneath. It just looks like it's glued down. So with bricks, not sure how long that's going to last. The table itself, die cast aluminium, pretty thick too, so should stand some abuse. Got some plastic moulding here, but it doesn't really do anything. It's more for show than anything, I think. Frame itself is powder coated metal. Weldings look half decent on them. Yeah, it seems pretty good. Like, everything's fairly smooth on it and slides well. So yeah, for the money, okay, let's talk money. Where this is about, for argument's sake, 900 Australian dollars. And when you compare it against other brick saws with this kind of capacity, this is cheap. Yeah, this is cheap, very cheap. When you go to more like a tradesman's type brick cutter, they're very basic, and they're just made of steel. So they're heavy, and they're meant to take the punishment of cutting bricks all day long. This has got a bit more finesse to it because it is a tile and brick cutter, not just a brick cutter. So, which is probably why you're getting a bit more accuracy with the railing and that sort of thing. But I think this is going to do me just fine for what I need. I've probably got about, let's say, 40 cuts all up, but that's a lot of cuts. And then I'm sure I'm not going to get them all right the first time. It's going to probably take a couple of cuts before I get dialed into what I need. And I'm also going to do a lot of cuts because I've got a bit of paving that I want to do later on down the track, so this will come in. The only thing you have with this is it's quite large, and I'm really running out of room of where I can store things that I don't use often. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge of where I can put this. I'm hoping to break it down and fit it in my little shed, my sort of camping storage shed. We're not in use because it's not something I'm going to pull out every day, that's for sure. Definitely not. Look, you know, it's pretty robust. It's not wobbly, not too wobbly. It's better than I was expecting for the price, considering the price difference. So I don't think they've done too bad a job. Electrical cable is quite quite a good cable. It's not as thick, but it's decent long. You've even got like I don't know why there's a thermal cutout switch here, as well as a reset button here. Yeah, no, don't know why that is, but on and off button seems quite smooth. The plastics are a little cheap, I must say. Where the grip is, it's like a sort of industrial type rubber grip thing there, but they don't have to take bumps, and like it's a decent quality. It's just not Milwaukee style plastic, I suppose you call it. It's more of a cheaper type plastic, but the handles are a bit different. It's like anything, don't over tighten them or you probably break them. But all seems like it will do the job for now, and hopefully I can do a couple of test cuts soon, and I'll show you guys it in action. All right, check you back soon. Okay, I've just made my first cut off camera, and I must say it went pretty well. There's the cut. I was sort of worried about the blade, but nice clean cut. Very little tear out right on the bottom corner, just a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, just on the edge there. There it is. Very, very little. And I think the idea with this blade is you just can't do it in one cut. You've got to go in and out until you get through the full depth. And it was cutting fairly easily, so we'll do another one. And even the scale on the front here is fairly accurate, I've found. I know I have worked out that it wants to, the scale has a 0 point here, and then it counts out again that side. I started to count this side to cut off my off cut on this side, but the blade thickness is, I lost the blade thickness on my material by cutting on this side of the line. So now I reverted to this side, and it's very close. So it's probably within a millimetre, and with brickwork, that's good enough, because you've usually got 10 mil of mortar gap each side anyway. So I think they'll have, like, I've marked this next brick out, and I marked the first brick out, and that was mainly just to see how close to the line I was. And I thought, I'll go off this and see what happens. And yeah, it was within a millimetre, so that's pretty good. So I won't have to measure and mark every brick. I can just put it up against the line here and be confident that I'm going to be within a mil of what I need, which is, for brickwork, it's more than enough, I think. Right, I'll fire this up, and we'll cut the brick and show you how it cuts. As you can see, That was pretty easy, and I wasn't forcing the wheel down. I was just sort of letting it make its own cut, and it went through it. So, and that's the original blade. And I've heard people say that the blades on some of these things that you get are useless, so buy another blade. But it worked really well. So I don't know if they've upgraded the blade. By the look of the blade, they haven't. It's just a normal diamond impregnated blade. Doesn't have the heat expansion slots like the good ones do. So I'm going to persist with it because I'm getting nice clean cuts with no tear out, and like the grippiness here. When I'm pulling back, I don't feel the brick shifting back. The only gripe I've got is that I've noticed is that because of the height of here to the size of the blade, my fingers are getting caught there. But I can always hold on to the brick from this side and pass through, which is probably. But I'm left-handed, which is probably more why I want to grab on that. But I can train myself to use that side to push it through. But again, you don't have to do that. If you only cut, I was cutting on the forward stroke and the back stroke, which is why I wanted to hold on to it in case the back stroke had tried to walk away. But if you only cut on the forward stroke and then lift up, come back and go again, it'll always be against the step here, the fence. So you won't actually have to put your hand up here and hold the brick. You could just actually push the sled. I'll do another one and I'll just be pushing the sled, see how that works, and we'll give that a crack. I've got another brick there, so we'll set you back up here. Okay, so I can see it's pulled away from the fence. That initial cut going through to the bottom there, I felt it. You can see it. It pulled the sled forward. So I think I'll move that forward a bit. I think that initial cut. You're going to have to hold it till you get to depth and then go through. So again, only like a little corner tear out, which I'm pretty happy with that. So, and again, how are we going for the height? I mean, that's spot on, same size. Being a tile cutter as well as a brick cutter, it's probably got that accuracy for a tile cutter. I'm sure that's mainly what these scales are for. So yeah, the motion is probably going to take a bit of getting used to, but yeah, I think initial cut, I'm going to have to hold on to it because it wanted to pull it out. But you know, blade is staying warm, cool. Sorry, nice and cool to the touch. The water is doing its job. It's cutting very easily. I'm having to apply very little pressure. So yeah, I'm pretty happy so far. Like, but if I look on the floor, on the ground, you know, you look on the ground, you can see there's a couple of drips here and there, and and mainly to the rear, which is why I've hung it over the grass. So it's not really gonna make a terrible mess, because you know it's pretty much catching everything into the water trough there and then recycling the water. And there are baffles in the trough, built into the trough itself, to protect the pump from large bits of debris getting into the pump. So it's they have done some, you know, some research and into it all. Alright, so I'm going to make a few more cuts because I need a few more of this length and one about 10mm wider, because I'm doing the at the moment I'm working on that wall, which you may have seen in my other videos. This video won't be about that wall, but it's mainly about this brick cutter. Just my thoughts about it, some things that I might learn about it, some bad things that I don't like about it. At the moment, the only thing that's sort of I don't like about it is trying to wheel the damn thing around. It's a bit unorthodox the way they've thought about this, because all the weight is on where you lift rather than on the wheels. So I could turn this around because the pit's got only sits on pins, and there are 2 bolts that hold it in, but you could rotate it 180 degrees and then the weight would be on the wheels, right? But then the handle would also be at the front here where the wheels are. So that sort of doesn't work, and you can't turn the wheels to the other side. It doesn't work. So whenever you've got the weight over the wheels, your handle's going to be over the wheels. So they didn't really think about that one. So because you know, dragging it with the weight, because the motor's the weight. Let's say everything else is distributed evenly, but the motor is the weight, and you're lifting it. It makes it difficult to steer and wander around. But I'm thinking that maybe they put that at the front, so the weight is solid on the ground rather than on the wheels. That could be why they've done it. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, because the wheels might want to skate around if but yeah, I mean, the only way you'd find out is if you tried it that way. The only other thing is because the handle is so high up, or maybe it's because I'm so short, it's a really uncomfortable lift too. You'd really want the handle to be a bit lower, so that when you lift it up, you actually got some pivot, so it did put some weight on the wheels rather than all on you. But like that said, not a hell of a lot of moving it around. Once you get in a position, it's probably going to stay there unless you're unhappy with it or for some reason it's in the way. So it's a trivial thing, but you know, I'm sure I can find a way to make that more user friendly with a small mod in the future once I have a think about it. Look, we've got some cord management, which is a great thing when you're trying to wheel things around. I hate having cords hanging around. They get damaged, they get caught on things. So yeah, that's a great little thing, that having something that, you know, so simple, but it makes your life a bit easier. I'm not too sure about the tilting part of it. I know why they've done that, to give you more capacity without having to go for a bigger blade, or maybe if they went a bigger blade they had to go a bigger motor. So they've probably done that to keep it cheap and keep it more compact. But yeah, it's sort of a little annoying. But it does have a depth gauge, so I could wind that all the way down to hold it down and go one full depth of cut. But I know that's going to really try and heat up the blade, so I'm better off doing smaller cuts and then coming down until I get through. I may try a full depth cut just to see what happens, to see how well it does through it. I think if you do a full depth cut, but you move forward slowly, you may be all right. To give it a like, just really take it easy, and you probably get through in one cut. I might give that a go later. But yeah, I think otherwise, like, I haven't really tested out the laser thing here. I mean, it's there, but in daylight, it's sort of hard to see that. I don't know if you can see it on the brick when it's there. Yeah, I can't even see it on the brick. I can see it. I don't know if you can see it. I can see it on the sled there, but when I put the brick over it, I can't see it. It must be because it's the light. So yeah, I don't know what much use, unless you're working in a real shaded area, if that's going to do you much good. Because that's supposed to show you your line of cut. So there is a bit of adjustment on it. So I think once you make a cut, you can adjust your line to get it smack on your cut, and then you wouldn't have to touch it anymore. So then you could just put your laser there, turn it on, and just move your brick. But once you set it up here, you'll see where your line is, and that's where your cut's going to be. Or if you've marked it, just stick your mark on the laser and cut through. So there's that as well. I think that'd be more for tile, to give you a bit more accurate cuts for your tiles, because that's where you're probably going to need a lot more, because the mortar gap on tiles is probably between 3 to 4 millimeters, something like that. So it's quite narrow compared to brickwork. So, but it is there if you wanted to have a play with it, use it. It's there. We can try that a bit later, but I'd have to be in the shade because I really can't see it out here. Yeah. So so far so good. It cuts nicely. The original blade is not a piece of rubbish. It's working well, and I'm not having to work too hard or press too hard to get it to cut. It cuts easily, and from what I can see and accurately, I might chuck a square on that, because I haven't tested like how square. We'll throw a square on there and see how square we are. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, even if that was a tile, I can't really see a gap. So, and I haven't made any adjustments. That's straight out of the box. All right, so that's pretty good on the sideways. What about the other direction? Yeah, that's out of the box. I haven't made any changes. So there we are, straight out of the box, and that's square in the two planes, horizontal and vertically. There you go. All right, so I'm going to keep cutting some of these bricks, and then I'll bring you back when I start doing some 45s, and we'll see how that goes with the 45 degrees. See you soon. Okay, so I've packed it away for today. We were supposed to get some thunderstorms today, so I don't really want to start bricking, even though this video is about the brick saw. Look, I did some 45 cuts, as you can see here, 45 degree, and look, even to a point, they came nice and clean. You Yeah, even this is an off cut, just sort of trying to get that 45 angle on the window, how I was going to work the bricks for each cut. So I've done quite a few, and look, they're just as easy as a straight cut, and you know, pretty accurate too. Got no qualms, no problems with it at all. The way it cuts really good. I'm quite happy with the purchase. You know, when you buy a cheaper of the range, and that's definitely cheapest of the range I could find from a tool shop. There are cheaper on eBay, but they didn't have the capacity that I needed. This has the capacity, and for all purposes that I'm going to be using it for, it cuts really well. I mean, I don't know how it's going to be day in, day out, but I don't know, I won't say I wouldn't, because it is marketed as an industrial tile and brick cutter. I think it'd be more suited to tiles probably. Accuracy is definitely there, and you know, ease of use, quite good. The only thing I can see maybe being a problem down the track is possibly the blade might not last as long as some aftermarket blades. Definitely after a day, after using it a bit, wash out your water trough, as I found brick debris all the way into where the pump sits. So probably a good idea to give it a good wash out. I mean, I've given it a hose down, but there's still, you know, bits around it, but I plan on using it again tomorrow, so I'm not going to go crazy on it. Yeah, well, it works. And it works well. It makes cutting bricks so much easier. The amount of bricks that I've got to cut and the accuracy that I want them to make a nice 45-degree angle on that corner window, I don't think I'll be able to get it with a chisel, like scoring it and chisel it. Somebody's been doing it 10, 15 years, their whole life sort of thing, probably wouldn't have a problem doing it that way. I'm pretty much a beginner in bricklaying, and I want every advantage I can get. And for I got this for $870 from Sydney Tools, and as far as I'm concerned, it's worth it. I'm saving a lot of money by doing this myself, the work myself, the bricklaying and even the stud work for this renovation. So I can afford the luxury of buying a tool because I've already saved money on labour, and this increases my productivity and my accuracy. So it's a win-win for me. So at this stage, I'm giving this a thumbs up. The Brayer / I'm sure it's Harbour Freight rebranded. I'm giving it a thumbs up. It has some stuff which probably, you know, isn't needed, like the laser guiding. Probably works okay in the shade, but in the sun, forget it, doesn't do anything. But look, the measurements on here, they work well. Like even the mitre gauge has a indented locking for 45 degrees, 22.5, and the other side 45 degrees. Very easy to use. Even this, it's the way it's clamped. They've thought about it because it doesn't just mar up here with like a bolt digging into it. The way they've got a bit of pressed steel that bends out and clamps it there. So they've thought about it. I mean, it's by means, probably isn't the best one out there on the market. Probably a lot better. I've seen a Husqvarna one, look pretty sweet, but over double the price. And for all purposes, the accuracy on this within a millimetre for brick and tile work, yeah, you can get closer than a millimetre if you compensate for that millimetre outage. So if this is like, if it's a millimetre long, which it is, it's a millimetre long, smack on there, then just go a millimetre shorter and you bang on what you want. So it's not a hard thing to compensate for. Look, I know it's a pain, but every machine that you work on has its own quirks, and you learn how to use that machine by getting around those quirks, and it becomes second nature after that. Believe me, I've got an old milling machine and a Chinese lathe, and I can get extremely accurate because I know their shortfalls and know how to work around it. It takes time and mistakes to get there, but once you know it, you can get around it, and for the price of this, it's worth the workaround. You know what I mean? Like $2,000 starting from just a standard brick cutter, not a tile and brick cutter, just a standard brick cutter, and there's no bells and whistles on it. It's all pretty rough. There's no measurements here or anything like that. There's a really basic miter gauge, no indentations. So I think the tile side of this, for the accuracy, has made the brick side a pleasure to work with. Okay, so because I've used industrial brick saw when I did my pavers, because I laid all these pavers, and they're all on a 45. So I use industrial brick cutter. I hide it for a whole day. After I'd laid them, I pre-marked out all the bricks and numbered them in the position where they need to go, and then I hired the machine and cut them all in one day. And there's 192 meters worth of paving there, so there's a lot of cutting, a lot. So I've used a brick cutter before, and the mess that thing made was unbelievable. This is after cutting. I'll probably cut maybe 10, 15 bricks. Just mucking around with what I'm going to do there. As you can see, I've been mocking it up, trying to work it out, and I've pretty much cut all the bricks I need for the window span on the right hand side there, where the toothing out is. I've cut all those bricks. They're ready to go. And look at the mess that's left on the ground. The brick cut, I know it was clay. These are clay bricks that I was cutting with the other saw, but the mess it made through my garage and down my driveway was horrific. This is just a bit of hosing and it's gone. And it doesn't come with that tray. Though I think they do now. I think it's because it's an EPA thing here in Australia, so to catch all the grit. But yeah. So even the expensive ones aren't exactly great either. So you got to weigh up what you want and what you think you're going to get out of it, or you're going to need out of it. And I think this is going to do me really well. Whether I sell it or not once I've done, I don't know. It just depends on whether I can find somewhere to put it. All right, that's enough of me yakking. This has a thumbs up from me. I'll have another chat maybe about it after I've done all the cuts with my brickwork, and if I find anything that maybe I don't like about it. I've already stated I don't like the way you move it around. The weight is all on the front rather than on the wheels, so it makes it difficult to move around. But I can live with that, and I can mod that if I really want to. I can change that around if I really want to. So I'm not calling that a big deal. And if it really starts to annoy me when I'm moving it around, I'll just go ahead and I'll mod it. But apart from that, I really don't have any complaints. Capacity is great. It does what I need it to. Probably wouldn't get those really big Besser block, cuts on this. You'd probably have to cut from both sides. But with the measurements, that makes it easier. So you just set it to, you can use this as a stop too. You set it, stop it, and then turn the brick over, hit it up against here again, you're in exactly the same spot. So you'd be able to do it both ways, but you'd have to have it lifted, the blade right up and do cuts like that. Maybe even 4 cuts around the diameter just to do those really big cinder blocks. But yeah, there it is. It works great. I'm happy with it. compared to what you'd pay for top end one of these. I think it has everything I need. All right, catch us on the next one, guys. This is a thumbs up for the Brayer tile and brick cutter, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Please like and subscribe, and if you want to get notified of any upcoming videos, hit your bell. See you later.